Poor girl helps a guy with flat tire, not knowing he's a millionaire, and falls in love with her. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. Emily had been struggling. At 24, she was working at a small coffee shop on the outskirts of the city. With rent due, a mountain of unpaid bills, and no clear way out, she felt as though her life was one long series of missteps. But today was different. The air was cool, and the sky was overcast, as if even the weather could feel her weariness. As she stepped out of the coffee shop, the wind picked up, making the long walk home feel even longer. She pulled her worn jacket tighter around her, wishing for something more, anything to make her life easier. She hadn't expected anything to happen today, least of all meeting someone who would change her life forever. But then, as she turned a corner onto her street, she saw him. A man, standing beside a sleek black car, was struggling with a flat tire. He was tall, dressed in an expensive jacket, but what caught her attention was the frustration on his face. His hands were covered in grease, and he seemed to be having a hard time. Without thinking, Emily approached. "Need some help?" she called out, her voice a little shaky from the chill in the air. The man looked up, his eyes catching hers for a moment, almost surprised by the offer. "I think I've got it," he said, but Emily could see he was struggling. He didn't look like the kind of guy who would ask for help, but something about his posture made her feel sorry for him. She couldn't help herself. "Let me give it a try," she insisted. The man hesitated for a moment, but then stepped back, letting her take over. She had changed a tire once or twice in her life, back when she used to help her dad, and she didn't mind getting her hands dirty. She worked quickly, her fingers slipping into the grooves of the tire, tightening the lug nuts, and getting it all set. The man watched her, still standing off to the side, his expression unreadable. When she was done, she stood up, brushing off her hands. "There you go," she said with a small smile. "All fixed." The man looked at her, his eyes widening for a split second before he offered a half smile in return. "Thanks," he said, sounding genuinely surprised. "I didn't expect to get help from a stranger." Emily just shrugged, feeling awkward. "It's no big deal," she said, then hesitated. "I mean, you're welcome though." The man chuckled. "Well, I appreciate it. I owe you one." Emily didn't know how to respond. She wasn't used to being thanked like that. Most of her days felt like a constant grind. But this man, with his sleek black car and tailored jacket, was in a world completely different from hers. She didn't think much of it until he suddenly asked, "Can I buy you a coffee?" "As a thank you, of course." Emily hesitated for just a moment, then nodded. She hadn't had a real coffee break in ages, and who was she to turn down an offer like this? "Sure," she said, trying to keep it casual. They walked toward the nearby cafe together. As they entered, the warmth of the place hit her like a wave. The man held the door open for her, and she couldn't help but notice how effortlessly he carried himself. Emily tried to push aside the nagging feeling in her gut. This man, this stranger, was nothing like the people she was used to. He was someone with wealth, someone with power, and she was just Emily, the girl who worked at a coffee shop to make ends meet. But there was something in his eyes, something that made her think he wasn't like everyone else. They sat down, and after a few awkward moments, they began talking. He introduced himself as Alex, and as they exchanged stories about their lives, Emily realized how different their worlds were. He spoke of business deals, of travel, and of a life she could never imagine. Yet, he didn't come across as arrogant. He listened intently, asking about her dreams and her struggles. For the first time in a long while, Emily felt like someone actually cared about what she had to say. Little did she know, this seemingly simple encounter was just the beginning of a journey that would change both of their lives forever. Emily had never expected that a simple act of kindness could lead to something that would turn her world upside down. After fixing the flat tire, she and Alex went to the small cafe just around the corner from the street. As they entered, the warmth of the cafe wrapped around her, and for a moment, she felt like she was in a different world, a world where people actually had time to slow down, to enjoy a cup of coffee. The man she had helped seemed completely at ease, even though he was dressed in a way that made him look like he belonged to a much wealthier world than hers. She noticed how effortlessly he moved, how he smiled like he belonged in places she could only dream of. Still, he didn't come off as arrogant. There was a quiet confidence in him, and Emily couldn't help but feel curious about who he really was. They sat down at a small table by the window, the soft hum of the cafe surrounding them. As they both ordered their coffee, Alex leaned back in his chair and looked at her, his eyes soft but sharp. "So, Emily," he began, his voice warm but serious, "what's your story? You seem like you've got a lot on your plate." Emily shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to respond. She wasn't used to talking about herself with strangers, especially not someone like Alex. She took a deep breath, trying to gather her thoughts. I work at a coffee shop," she said, her voice trailing off a bit. "It's not much, but it pays the bills." She hesitated before adding, "I've got some debt to deal with too. It's been hard." Alex nodded, his expression sympathetic but not pitying. "I get it," he said, leaning forward slightly. "Life can be tough, especially when you feel like you're stuck in a cycle." Emily looked at him, surprised by how much he seemed to understand. "How about you?" she asked, trying to change the subject. "What do you do?" Alex smiled, his eyes gleaming with a hint of mystery. "I'm in business," he said, his voice light, but there was something behind his words that made Emily want to ask more. But before she could, the barista brought their drinks over, and they both took a moment to sip. The steam from her cup felt comforting against her cold skin, and Emily started to relax a little more. For a few moments, they simply drank their coffee in comfortable silence, enjoying the warmth and the strange connection they had just begun to form. As they talked more, Emily found herself opening up in ways she hadn't with anyone in a long time. Alex listened intently, asking thoughtful questions, but he didn't share much about himself. It was like he wanted to know everything about her, but kept his own life tucked away. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than he was letting on. But something in the way he treated her, something in the way he seemed genuinely interested in her life, made her feel like she could trust him. As the conversation continued, Emily's phone buzzed. She glanced down, surprised to see a text from her landlord, reminding her that her rent was due in just a few days. Her stomach twisted in anxiety. "I should go," she said, quickly pushing the phone back into her pocket. "It's getting late, and I've got work early tomorrow." Alex gave her a look, almost as if he could see through her, but he didn't press her. Instead, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his wallet. "I'd like to help," he said quietly, his eyes never leaving hers. "What do you mean?" Emily asked, confused. "I know you're struggling," he said. "I can help with your rent, if that's what's weighing on you." Emily froze, her heart racing. She hadn't expected this. She didn't know how to respond. I don't know if I can accept that," she stammered. "I barely know you." Alex smiled, his expression soft but insistent. "You helped me today, and I'm not the kind of person who forgets kindness. You don't have to pay me back. Just take it." He pushed a small envelope across the table toward her. Emily stared at it, torn between pride and desperation. She could tell that Alex wasn't offering her this out of charity. There was something deeper to his offer, something that made her feel both grateful and uneasy. After a moment, she took the envelope, her hands trembling slightly. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Alex nodded, his eyes locking with hers. "You don't have to thank me," he said softly. "Just don't give up." Emily felt a lump in her throat as she tried to hold back the tears that were threatening to spill over. She didn't know why, but something about the way Alex spoke to her, something about the way he saw her, made her feel like she mattered. She had been feeling so invisible for so long. But in that moment, she realized that maybe, just maybe, someone out there saw her for who she really was. As she left the cafe that evening, the cool night air felt different. It didn't sting her skin quite as much. She felt lighter. But as she walked home, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. She had no idea what was coming next, but somehow, she knew her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet understand. Emily woke up the next morning with a strange feeling in her chest. The envelope Alex had given her the night before was still in her bag, and she couldn't stop thinking about the kindness he had shown her. She had barely slept, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. The rent was still due, and the money Alex had offered was more than generous. But accepting it felt like crossing a line she wasn't ready to cross. It wasn't about pride anymore, but about the way it made her feel, like she was accepting something from someone she barely knew. Yet, she knew she had no choice. The bills weren't going to wait. She got dressed, tried to shake off the unease, and walked to work, the cool morning air biting at her face. The coffee shop was bustling as usual, but Emily felt out of place. Everything felt different today. She moved through the motions, preparing drinks, taking orders, all while her thoughts kept drifting back to Alex. What kind of person was he? What was his story? And why had he chosen to help her? As the day wore on, Emily found it harder to focus. She tried to push the thoughts away, but they lingered. Then, around noon, just as the lunch rush was winding down, Alex walked into the coffee shop. He looked the same as before, casual, but his presence was still striking. He scanned the room, and his eyes landed on her. Emily froze for a moment, unsure of what to do. It had been less than 24 hours since they had shared that strange moment in the cafe, and now here he was again, standing right in front of her. "Hey," he said with a smile, his voice calm and warm. "I thought I'd stop by and say hi." Emily's heart skipped a beat. "Hi," she replied, trying to sound casual. "What can I get you?" She reached for the register, her hands a little unsteady. "Just a coffee, please," Alex said. "But I have a feeling you're going to want to sit down for a minute." He wasn't wrong. Emily gestured to the table by the window, and they sat down together. It wasn't a long conversation, but it felt like it. Alex asked her how she was doing, if she had taken care of the rent, if everything was okay. She tried to downplay it, but it was impossible to hide. He could tell something was bothering her. "Emily," he said gently, after a few moments of quiet, "you don't have to be so stubborn. I know you're struggling. I just want to help." Emily looked down at her hands, unsure of what to say. "I can't just take your money," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't even know you." Alex leaned forward, his expression serious but understanding. "I know it's hard to accept help, but sometimes it's okay. And I'm not doing this because I feel sorry for you. I'm doing it because I see something in you, something worth investing in." Emily felt a lump form in her throat. She had never heard anyone speak to her like that before. The weight of his words hung in the air, and for a moment, she didn't know how to respond. But Alex wasn't done. "Look, I didn't just offer you that money because I feel guilty. I believe in helping people who need it, but I also believe in getting to know them." His voice softened. "And I want to get to know you." Emily felt a mix of emotions, confusion, gratitude, and a strange sense of vulnerability. She had spent so long keeping people at arm's length, building walls around herself to protect her from disappointment. But here was Alex, offering something she never thought she'd receive. Help, yes, but also understanding. She didn't know what to make of it. "I'm not used to this," she said quietly. "I've been on my own for so long. I don't know how to let someone in." Alex smiled kindly. "That's okay. You don't have to let anyone in right now. But maybe just trust me a little. Let me help where I can." Emily took a deep breath. She hadn't expected her day to go like this, hadn't expected her life to take this turn, but somehow, it felt like she had to listen to him. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to this story than she realized. After a few more moments of quiet conversation, Alex stood up, his usual confident demeanor returning. "I'll let you get back to work," he said. "But remember, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask." Emily watched him leave, her heart racing. She couldn't quite put her finger on what had just happened, but it felt like a turning point. She didn't know if she could accept his help, but she knew she couldn't ignore the connection she felt. As the day wore on, Emily tried to keep busy, but her mind kept going back to Alex and his offer. She couldn't stop thinking about how different he was from anyone she'd ever met. What was he really looking for? And why had he chosen her? The questions swirled in her head, but one thing was clear. Her life had just become a lot more complicated, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for it. The next few days passed in a blur for Emily. After Alex's unexpected visit to the coffee shop, she found herself thinking about him more often than she wanted to admit. She had tried to push aside the feelings of confusion and uncertainty, but they lingered. Every time she saw his face in her mind, she felt a strange mix of warmth and wariness. Was it possible to trust someone she barely knew? She wasn't sure, but one thing was certain. He had left an impression on her. Life went on as usual, but the questions kept building. She didn't know what Alex wanted from her, why he was offering help. when he barely knew her. But she also knew that accepting his offer, though hard to swallow, could be the only way out of her financial mess. She had always been independent, never asking anyone for help. Her pride had always been her armor, and accepting help felt like breaking that armor, exposing her vulnerabilities. But as the days passed, the weight of her situation became harder to ignore. Rent was due, and the other bills were piling up. The deadline was fast approaching, and she had no way to pay it. The tension in her chest only grew. On the fourth day after their meeting, Emily decided to take the plunge. She pulled out the envelope Alex had given her that night at the cafe. It had been sitting untouched in her bag, a reminder of the help she had hesitated to accept. She took a deep breath, knowing what she had to do. She called him. The phone rang twice before Alex picked up. "Hello." His voice was calm, almost reassuring. "Hi, Alex," Emily said, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty. "It's Emily. I've been thinking about what you said, and I think I could use your help." There was a pause on the other end, and Emily's heart skipped a beat. "I'm glad you called," Alex said softly. "I knew you would. Let's meet up." Emily agreed, and they set a time to meet later that evening. When she walked into the small cafe where they had first met, her heart was pounding. She wasn't sure why she was so nervous. This wasn't a romantic date. This was simply about accepting help. But it felt like so much more. As she sat down across from Alex, she could see that he was looking at her with those same kind eyes, not judging, just waiting for her to speak. "I don't know how to thank you for what you're offering," Emily said, her voice quiet but full of gratitude. "I never thought I would be in a position to ask for help, but here I am. I can't do this on my own anymore." Alex reached out and placed his hand on hers, a small but reassuring gesture. "You don't need to thank me," he said, his voice low and sincere. "I want to help. That's all there is to it. You're not alone in this." Emily swallowed the lump in her throat. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear those words. I can't promise I'll be able to pay you back right away," she said. "I don't know how long it will take, but I'll do what I can." Alex gave her a reassuring smile. "You don't need to worry about that. I'm not asking for anything in return. This is just me doing what I believe is right." There was a quiet understanding between them, a bond that was starting to form. Emily felt like she had stepped into something unknown, but for the first time in a long while, it didn't feel scary. It felt like a lifeline. After they discussed the details of the loan, Emily tried to keep things light, but she couldn't help but ask about Alex's life. "You said you were in business, but you never really explained what you do," she said, her curiosity getting the better of her. Alex smiled, but it was the kind of smile that suggested he wasn't ready to reveal everything just yet. "I'm involved in a few different projects," he said. "Let's just say that I've been fortunate enough to have some success. But the work I do is more about helping others than anything else. It's about giving back." Emily raised an eyebrow, sensing that there was more to his story. But for now, she was content to let him keep his secrets. What mattered was that he had chosen to help her. She had never been one to rely on anyone, but with Alex, it felt different. He wasn't asking for anything in return, and that made all the difference. "Thank you," Emily said again, her voice thick with emotion. "You don't know how much this means to me." Alex squeezed her hand lightly. "You don't have to thank me, Emily. Just know that you don't have to carry everything by yourself. You're allowed to lean on people sometimes." As they finished their coffee, Emily felt a sense of peace that she hadn't known in months. She had accepted help, and in doing so, she had taken the first step towards something bigger. But what that something was, she couldn't say yet. As they parted ways that evening, Emily's heart was heavy with a mix of emotions: relief, gratitude, and something else she couldn't quite place. She didn't know where this connection with Alex would lead, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like maybe, just maybe, things were starting to fall into place. The days following her decision to accept Alex's help were a whirlwind for Emily. It felt like everything was moving too fast, yet too slow at the same time. She had taken the money he offered, which lifted an immense weight off her shoulders, but it also left her with a lingering feeling of vulnerability she couldn't shake. Her pride had always been her shield, but now it felt like it had cracked just enough to let someone in, and that someone was Alex. She tried to keep herself busy at work, but the more she thought about him, the more questions arose. What did he want from her? Was he just being kind, or was there something more at play here? She had always been skeptical of people who offered too much help, But Alex's actions didn't seem selfish. In fact, everything about him seemed genuine, even though she couldn't fully understand why. 2 days after their meeting at the coffee shop, Alex called her again. Emily was working her shift, and when she saw his name on her phone, she felt a flutter in her chest. She took a deep breath before answering, trying to calm the nervous energy that had been building. "Hey, Emily," Alex said on the other end. "I hope I'm not interrupting your day, but I wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Is everything going all right?" Emily smiled softly, a little surprised at how considerate he sounded. "Yeah, things are good. The money really helped. Thank you again. It's given me a little breathing room." "That's great to hear," Alex replied. "Listen, I've got an idea. I know this place that's a little out of the way, but it's beautiful. How about we go for a drive and grab dinner tonight? It could be a nice break from everything." Emily hesitated. She wasn't used to going out with someone like him, especially since their last meeting had been so loaded with emotion. She wasn't sure what his intentions were, but part of her wanted to say yes. "I'm not sure," she began, her voice uncertain. "I mean, I don't want to inconvenience you." "You wouldn't be," Alex reassured her. "I just thought it would be nice for you to get away for a bit. Plus, I enjoy your company." Emily could feel her heart racing a little. "Okay," she said, finally relenting. "I'll go, but just for a little while." "Sounds perfect," Alex responded, his voice warm. "I'll pick you up at 7. That evening, Emily found herself standing at her window, looking out at the city. The thought of spending time with Alex again made her feel both excited and nervous. She hadn't been out on a date in a long time, let alone with someone like him. She wondered if this was a simple gesture of kindness, or if Alex was starting to see her in a different light. She quickly brushed off the thought, but it lingered in her mind. When 7 o'clock came, Alex pulled up outside her apartment in a sleek black car that gleamed in the dimming light. Emily hesitated for just a moment before she grabbed her purse and stepped outside. She got into the car, and as soon as she did, Alex greeted her with a smile that instantly put her at ease. "You look great," he said, his eyes scanning her briefly. Emily felt a blush rise in her cheeks. "Thanks," she said, feeling a little self-conscious. The drive to the restaurant was peaceful. The roads were quiet, and the city lights seemed to blur into a soft glow outside the window. Alex didn't push her to talk about anything too personal. He kept the conversation light, asking about her day, about work, and even telling a few funny stories about his own experiences. Emily found herself laughing, feeling like she was finally able to relax. They arrived at the restaurant, a small, intimate place on the outskirts of town that Emily had never noticed before. The exterior was charming, with soft, golden lights hanging from the trees, casting a warm glow on the path. Alex opened the door for her, and they walked inside together. The atmosphere was cozy, with low lighting and soft music playing in the background. Emily felt the tension in her shoulders begin to melt away as they were seated at a small table by the window. As they ordered their food, Alex seemed genuinely interested in everything she had to say. She noticed how attentive he was, how he looked at her as though he cared about what she was saying, no matter how trivial. For the first time in a long while, Emily didn't feel invisible. She felt seen. The night passed quickly, and before she knew it, they were finishing their meal. Alex set down his fork and looked across the table at her, his expression thoughtful. "I really enjoy spending time with you, Emily," he said softly. "I know we've only known each other for a short time, but I feel like there's something here. I want to get to know you better, if that's okay with you." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to say that. She had been trying to keep her distance, not wanting to complicate things, but now, hearing him say this, she realized that maybe she felt the same way. I enjoy spending time with you too," she said, her voice a little shaky. "I just didn't want to get things wrong, you know?" Alex smiled gently, leaning forward slightly. "We don't have to rush anything, Emily. I just want to be there for you, however you need." Emily felt her heart swell with a mixture of gratitude and something deeper, something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. Maybe, just maybe, Alex was the kind of person she could let in. As they left the restaurant, Alex drove her back to her apartment, and the silence between them felt comfortable. When they arrived, he turned off the car and looked at her. "I'll see you soon, Emily. Take care of yourself." "Thanks, Alex. You too," she said, her voice soft. She got out of the car and walked up to her apartment, feeling a mix of emotions. She had been so focused on survival, on keeping her walls up, but now she was starting to wonder what it might be like to let someone in. She didn't know where this would lead, but for the first time in a long while, she felt a sense of hope she hadn't thought possible. The following week, Emily found herself in a strange new routine. She had always been a girl who kept her distance from others, always focusing on work, trying to keep her life together, but now, with Alex in the picture, things were starting to shift in ways she wasn't ready for. She had expected to feel overwhelmed, even confused, but instead, she felt a sense of calm whenever she thought about him. He had been supportive, understanding, and kind in a way she had never experienced before. The more she saw him, the more she realized how much she enjoyed his company. But at the same time, she was afraid. She had always been independent, always relied on herself to get by. And here she was, starting to rely on someone else, someone who seemed to have everything she didn't: wealth, success, confidence. She wasn't sure if she was ready for this kind of connection, especially with someone like Alex. He had made it clear he wanted to get to know her better, but the question still lingered in her mind. Why her? What did he see in her? It wasn't that she didn't enjoy his company. It was just that she wasn't sure if she was the kind of woman who deserved someone like him. She tried not to let these thoughts consume her, but they kept creeping into her mind. A few days after their dinner date, Alex called again. Emily had been preparing for another long shift at the coffee shop when his name appeared on her phone. She took a deep breath before answering, trying to calm the jittery feeling in her stomach. "Hey, Emily," Alex said, his voice as calm and warm as always. "How's everything going?" Emily smiled at the sound of his voice, but there was still a hint of uncertainty in her response. "It's going, you know. Work's been busy, but it's manageable." "I'm glad to hear that," Alex replied. "Listen, I've been thinking. I know you're working hard, but you should take some time off. We could go away for the weekend, just to relax. I know a place by the lake. It's peaceful, beautiful, and I think you'd really enjoy it." Emily hesitated, feeling a sense of panic rise in her chest. She wasn't sure about taking time off, especially for a trip with Alex. It felt like a big step, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for that. "I don't know," she said slowly. "I mean, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not sure about taking a trip right now. I have a lot of things to focus on." "You deserve a break, Emily," Alex said, his voice gentle but firm. "You work so hard, and I think you need to take some time for yourself. I'd love for you to join me, but I completely understand if you need to think it over." Emily sat in silence for a moment, feeling torn. She didn't want to let Alex down, but she also didn't want to rush into something she wasn't ready for. She had a lot of doubts about herself, about her future, about what this relationship could be. "I'll think about it," she finally said, her voice quiet. "I just need a little time." "Take all the time you need," Alex replied. "I'm here whenever you're ready." They said their goodbyes, and Emily hung up the phone, her mind swirling with questions. The offer sounded so tempting, getting away from everything for a while, having time to relax and breathe, but she wasn't sure if she could let go of her responsibilities. She didn't know if she could just leave everything behind and take a break. Later that evening, she sat alone in her small apartment, staring out the window. The city below was alive with lights, but all she could think about was the pressure she felt to figure everything out. Her job, her finances, her relationship with Alex. Everything felt like it was moving too fast, and she wasn't sure if she could keep up. But as she sat there, she remembered what Alex had said. He hadn't pushed her. He had just offered her a chance to take a break, to escape the chaos of her life, if only for a little while. For the first time in a long time, she realized that maybe she didn't have to do everything on her own. Maybe it was okay to let someone help her, to let someone in. The next day, Emily called Alex back. She had thought it over, and while she was still nervous, she knew deep down that she needed to take the leap. "Okay," she said, her voice a little hesitant. "I'm in. Let's do it. I could use the time away." Alex's voice lit up with excitement. "That's great, Emily. I promise you'll love it. I'll make all the arrangements, and we'll leave Friday evening." As the days went by, Emily found herself looking forward to the trip, though she was still anxious about what it would mean for her relationship with Alex. She had agreed to go, but she wasn't sure if she was ready to confront her feelings just yet. She didn't know if she could just let go of all the doubts that had been holding her back. When Friday evening arrived, Alex picked her up in his car, and as they drove toward the lake, Emily felt a sense of excitement mixed with nerves. The landscape outside the window was calming, with the soft glow of the setting sun painting the sky in warm hues of orange and pink. As they arrived at the lake house, Emily couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. The place was beautiful, surrounded by trees and nestled beside the tranquil waters of the lake. Alex helped her inside, and the cozy, peaceful atmosphere made her feel like she was in another world. For the first time in a long while, Emily felt like she could breathe. She didn't have to worry about bills, or her job, or anything. She was simply there, in the moment, and for a little while, she allowed herself to relax. As they sat on the porch, watching the sun set over the water, Alex turned to her with a soft smile. "I'm glad you came, Emily," he said. "I know this wasn't easy for you." Emily smiled back, her heart feeling lighter than it had in weeks. "Thank you for everything, Alex," she said quietly. "I think this is exactly what I needed." For the first time in a long while, Emily felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. The weekend at the lake house was everything Emily needed and more. The tranquil setting, surrounded by nature, offered her the peace she hadn't realized she was craving. The constant hum of city life, her worries about bills and work, had all faded into the background. It was just her and Alex, with no distractions and no pressures. The more time she spent with him, the more she realized how easy it was to be around him. There were no pretenses, no games. It felt as though they had known each other for much longer than they actually had. One evening, after a quiet dinner together, they sat on the porch of the lake house, wrapped in cozy blankets as they watched the stars appear one by one. The cool night air was a gentle contrast to the warmth of the fire pit between them. Emily stared at the flickering flames, her mind quiet for the first time in weeks. "I'm glad you came, Emily," Alex said, his voice soft but sincere. "You deserve this time to relax." She smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude. "I never would have done this on my own," she admitted. "I needed someone to push me." Alex nodded, his eyes reflecting the flickering light of the fire. "Sometimes we all need a little nudge. Life can be overwhelming, and it's easy to forget that we need to take care of ourselves." Emily turned to face him, her heart swelling with emotion. She didn't know what it was, but being here with him felt right. "I've been thinking a lot," she said, her voice low. "About everything. About us. About how much you've helped me. I don't even know how to say thank you enough." Alex looked at her with that familiar, kind smile. "You don't have to thank me. I'm happy to help, Emily. I'm just glad you're here." She felt the weight of his words settle in her chest. He wasn't just offering help. He was offering his time, his attention, and something even more valuable, his trust. The realization hit her then. It wasn't just about the help he had given her. It was about the connection they had, the way they were starting to understand each other without words. It was about him seeing her as more than just a girl struggling to make ends meet. He saw her as someone worth investing in, someone worth getting to know. As the night wore on, they talked more about their lives, their hopes, and their pasts. Emily opened up in ways she hadn't with anyone in a long time. She shared the struggles she had faced growing up, the challenges of losing her father, and how she had learned to rely on herself. Alex listened intently, asking questions, offering his own stories of loss and perseverance. It felt like they were two pieces of a puzzle, slowly coming together. "I'm glad we're doing this," Emily said quietly, her voice tinged with vulnerability. "I don't want to mess things up. I don't know what this is yet, but I feel like it's important." Alex turned to her, his expression serious but gentle. "You don't have to have it all figured out. We can take things one step at a time. I'm not going anywhere, Emily." His words settled in her heart, bringing with them a sense of calm she hadn't known before. The next day, as they spent the afternoon walking around the lake, Emily felt herself letting go of the fear she had been holding on to. She didn't need to rush into anything, and she didn't need to have all the answers right away. The time they were spending together was enough. There was no pressure, no expectations. It was just about being in the moment. Later, as the sun began to set, Alex took her to a spot by the water where the sky was painted with hues of orange and pink. It was the perfect ending to the perfect day. He turned to her, his eyes soft but unwavering. "I'm really glad you came here, Emily," he said quietly. "I know it hasn't been easy for you, but you're doing great. You don't have to carry everything by yourself." Emily felt her heart swell with emotion. She had always carried everything herself, her struggles, her fears, her insecurities. But with Alex, for the first time, she felt like it was okay to let someone else help carry the weight. As they stood there, watching the sunset, Emily realized that she had been afraid of letting go of control for so long. But with Alex, it didn't feel like losing control. It felt like gaining something better: trust, connection, and a future that was no longer so uncertain. As they made their way back to the lake house, Alex took her hand in his, and Emily couldn't help but smile. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she had found someone who truly understood her. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to face it, with him by her side. The days after the weekend at the lake felt different for Emily. She had returned to her routine at the coffee shop, but everything seemed to have shifted. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had crossed a line with Alex, one she had never intended to cross. The connection between them had grown stronger during their time away, and now that she was back in her everyday life, she found herself thinking about him constantly. It wasn't just the kindness he had shown her, or the way he seemed to genuinely care about her well-being. It was the way he made her feel seen in a world where she had often felt invisible. Emily hadn't realized how much she needed that until it was right in front of her. The more she thought about Alex, the more she realized she was starting to fall for him. But with that realization came a whole new set of fears. What if she wasn't good enough for him? What if he was just being kind because he felt sorry for her? She tried to push those thoughts away, but they kept creeping into her mind. One evening, as she finished her shift and was about to head home, her phone buzzed with a message from Alex. He wanted to meet up for dinner, just the two of them. Emily smiled as she read the message, but a wave of nervousness followed soon after. She had been avoiding the deeper feelings she had for him, but now, it seemed impossible to keep pretending they weren't there. She agreed to meet him at a restaurant downtown, one she had always wanted to try but never had the chance. As soon as she walked in, she spotted him right away. He was sitting at a corner table, dressed in a simple but elegant button-down shirt and jeans. He looked up when she walked in, his face lighting up in a way that made Emily's heart skip a beat. "Hey," Alex said, standing up to greet her. "You look great." Emily smiled nervously. "Thanks," she said, trying to keep her cool. "You too." They sat down, and for a moment, there was an awkward silence between them. It wasn't that they didn't have anything to talk about. It was more that Emily wasn't sure how to navigate the emotions that had been building up inside her. She had been trying so hard not to acknowledge them, but now it was impossible to ignore. Alex seemed to sense the tension. "I'm glad you could make it," he said, breaking the silence. "I've been wanting to spend more time with you." Emily nodded, her heart racing. "I'm glad too. It's just, sometimes I don't know what I'm doing, you know? Like, this whole thing, whatever this is, feels so different from anything I've experienced before." Alex studied her for a moment, his eyes soft but intent. "You don't have to have it all figured out," he said gently. "I don't either. We're just taking things one step at a time, right?" Emily took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words. For some reason, hearing him say that made everything feel less overwhelming. She wasn't alone in this. "Right," she said, smiling a little. "One step at a time." The rest of dinner went smoothly. They talked about their work, their goals, their favorite books, and even shared a few laughs. Emily found herself enjoying the evening more than she had expected. The more time she spent with Alex, the more she realized how much she wanted to be with him. But there was still a nagging fear at the back of her mind. Was she truly ready for this? Was she ready to open herself up fully to someone else? As they finished their meal, Alex reached across the table and took her hand in his touch warm and reassuring. "Emily," he said, his voice soft but firm, "I don't want to rush you, and I don't want to make you feel pressured. But I want you to know that I'm here for you, no matter what. I really like you, and I want to see where this goes." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had heard those words before, but from him, it felt different. She felt safe with him, and for the first time in a long time, she wanted to let her guard down. "I like you too, Alex," she said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. "More than I thought I would." Alex smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "That's all I need to hear." They finished their drinks and made their way outside, where the cool evening air wrapped around them. As they walked to their cars, Emily felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't that all her problems had been solved, but for the first time, she felt like she was on the right path. Maybe it was because of Alex, Or maybe it was because she was finally allowing herself to be open to the possibilities in her life. She wasn't sure, but whatever it was, it felt right. As they said goodnight, Alex leaned in and kissed her gently on the cheek, a soft but meaningful gesture that made her heart flutter. "I'll see you soon, Emily," he said, his voice low and warm. "Take care of yourself." "You too, Alex," she replied, her voice filled with emotion. She watched as he drove off into the night, and as she walked back to her apartment, she couldn't help but smile. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. She was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was ready for whatever came next. The next few weeks passed by in a blur for Emily. Her life seemed to be moving faster than ever before, yet she felt like she was finally starting to get a handle on it. She was still working long hours at the coffee shop, but now, there was a sense of calm that had settled over her. Alex had become a steady presence in her life, and with each passing day, she found herself growing more comfortable with the idea of opening up to him. Their relationship wasn't defined yet, but it didn't feel rushed or forced. Every time they spent time together, whether it was a quiet dinner or just sitting and talking about their days, Emily felt like she was seeing a new side of him, and in turn, discovering more about herself. The doubts that had once consumed her seemed to fade, replaced by a growing sense of trust. But despite the comfort she had found in their time together, Emily knew there were still things she had to face. She had kept her walls up for so long, built around the fear of being hurt, and now, as she let Alex in, she couldn't help but wonder how much of her past she was willing to share. There were things she had never told anyone, things that made her feel vulnerable in ways she wasn't sure she could handle. One evening, Alex suggested they take a weekend trip to the city. It wasn't too far, just a short drive away, but it would be a nice change of scenery. Emily agreed, though she was a little nervous. It would be their first trip together, and while she felt excited, she also knew that it was another step forward. She couldn't help but wonder if it was too soon. As they drove to the city, Emily found herself glancing over at Alex, wondering what he was thinking. He seemed as calm and collected as ever, but she knew he had been through his own share of challenges. He had told her bits and pieces about his past, but there were still things he kept to himself. She respected that, but it also made her wonder how much he was holding back. When they arrived at their hotel, Emily was surprised by how elegant it was. The lobby was filled with rich colors and plush furniture, and the whole place had an air of quiet sophistication. Alex had made the arrangements, and it was clear that he had chosen somewhere special. After they checked in, they took a walk around the city, exploring the bustling streets and stopping at little cafes and shops along the way. The city was alive with energy, and Emily felt a sense of freedom she hadn't experienced in a long time. For the first time in a while, she wasn't thinking about her responsibilities or the weight of her past. She was just enjoying the moment. As the evening came, they made their way to a rooftop restaurant, overlooking the glittering skyline. The view was breathtaking, and Emily couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. The lights from the city below looked like a sea of stars, and for a moment, she felt like she was part of something bigger. The conversation flowed easily as they sat down, and Emily found herself laughing and enjoying the evening more than she expected. But as they talked, a small part of her felt like there was something left unsaid. She couldn't shake the feeling that Alex was waiting for her to open up more, to share the things she had kept hidden for so long. And while she wasn't ready to spill everything all at once, she knew it was something she had to face eventually. After dinner, they took a stroll along the street, the cool night air brushing against their faces. As they walked, Alex took her hand in his fingers warm and reassuring. "Emily," he said softly, "I know we haven't talked much about our pasts, but I want you to know that you don't have to hide anything from me. You can tell me anything, whenever you're ready." Emily's heart skipped a beat. His words were simple, but they were full of understanding. It was like he knew exactly what she needed to hear. "I appreciate that," she said quietly, her voice tinged with emotion. "I know I've been holding back, but I don't want to keep anything from you. I'm just not sure where to start." Alex gave her a gentle smile, squeezing her hand. "Take your time," he said. "There's no rush. I'm not going anywhere." As they walked through the city, Emily felt a sense of relief. She hadn't realized how much she had been holding in until that moment. The idea of sharing her past, her fears, her insecurities, didn't feel as overwhelming as it once had. She didn't have to carry it all alone. The trust between them had been building steadily, and now, for the first time, Emily felt like she was ready to take the next step. She didn't have to be afraid of letting Alex in. He wasn't there to judge her or fix everything. He was there to be with her, to listen, to support her in whatever way she needed. As they continued to walk, Emily took a deep breath and looked up at the stars above. Maybe, just maybe, she was ready to face whatever came next. The weekend in the city had given her more than just a change of scenery. It had given her a glimpse into the future, one where she didn't have to be afraid of opening up, one where she could be herself and trust the people around her. As they returned to the hotel that night, Alex kissed her gently on the forehead before they said goodnight. Emily smiled as she walked to her room, her heart full. She didn't know what the future held, but she was beginning to feel like she was finally ready to embrace it. As the weeks passed since their weekend getaway, Emily began to feel a shift in her heart. The more time she spent with Alex, the more she realized that she was falling for him in a way she hadn't expected. The connection between them had grown deeper, more meaningful. She found herself looking forward to their time together. Whether it was a simple evening at his apartment or a spontaneous trip out of town, every moment with him seemed to remind her of the person she used to be before life had weighed her down with so many burdens. She had always believed she could handle everything on her own, that asking for help or letting people in would only leave her vulnerable. But Alex had changed that. His kindness, his patience, and his understanding had slowly cracked the walls she had built around herself. He never pushed her for anything more than she was willing to give, and that was something Emily had never known she needed so much. It wasn't just his gestures of support, though they had been incredibly meaningful, but it was the way he listened, the way he made her feel like her thoughts and feelings mattered. One evening, after dinner at a small restaurant they both enjoyed, Emily found herself walking along the river with Alex. The evening air was crisp, and the sound of the flowing water created a peaceful ambience. The city was just a backdrop now, with the two of them lost in their own world. "You know, I've been thinking a lot lately," Emily said, her voice soft, almost as if she were testing the waters. "About us, about everything." Alex turned to look at her, his gaze steady, as if he was ready to listen to whatever she had to say. "What about us?" he asked, his voice gentle. Emily stopped walking and looked out at the water for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "I don't want to mess this up," she admitted. "I've been carrying so much for so long, and I guess I just never thought I'd get to a place where I could let someone in, let someone help me. And now that you're here, I'm starting to wonder if I'm really ready for it. For all of this." Alex reached for her hand, taking it gently in his. "Emily," he said softly, "you don't have to have all the answers right now, and you don't have to be perfect. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for you. I want to be with you, for who you are, not for some ideal version of yourself. You're already enough as you are." His words settled in her chest, and for the first time, Emily realized that she had been trying to be someone she wasn't, someone who could always handle everything on her own, who never needed help or support. But with Alex, she didn't have to be that person. He made her feel safe enough to be vulnerable, to admit her fears, and to accept that she didn't have to do everything by herself. "I don't know what the future holds," Emily said, squeezing his hand. "But I do know that I want to see where this goes. I want to see what we can build together." Alex smiled, a warm, reassuring smile that made her heart flutter. "Me too, Emily. I'm in this with you, every step of the way." The days that followed were filled with quiet moments of connection, each one deepening their bond. They continued to learn more about each other, sharing their dreams, their fears, and the pieces of their past that had shaped who they were. Alex never pressured her to open up, but she felt safe doing so. She realized that, in many ways, she was beginning to let go of the past, of the pain and the struggles that had held her back, and embrace the possibility of a future where she wasn't alone. One evening, as they sat together on the couch in Alex's apartment, Emily looked at him and smiled. "You know, I used to think that my life had to be about survival, about just getting by. But now, I feel like I'm actually living, you know? Like, I'm actually experiencing something real." Alex's eyes softened as he leaned in, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "That's exactly what I want for you, Emily. You deserve to live, not just survive. You deserve to be happy." Emily's heart skipped a beat. In that moment, she realized how far they had come, how much she had grown since she met Alex. And for the first time, she felt like she was ready to fully embrace the future, whatever it might bring. They didn't need to have everything figured out. All they needed was to be there for each other, to support each other, and to take things one step at a time. And that was enough. As she lay in bed that night, Emily thought about everything that had happened over the past few months, the struggles, the doubts, and the fear of letting someone in. But now, she felt something different. Hope. It wasn't the kind of hope that came from expecting things to be perfect, but the kind of hope that came from knowing she wasn't alone anymore. She had someone who cared, someone who believed in her, and for the first time in a long time, she believed in herself, too. She didn't know where this path would lead, but she was ready to walk it with Alex by her side. The next few weeks were a blur of new experiences and emotions for Emily. She had never imagined that her life could change so drastically in such a short time. The walls she had spent years building around herself were slowly coming down, and she was allowing someone in, someone who made her feel seen, valued, and most importantly, loved. She had never expected to be here, but now, with Alex by her side, it felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Their connection had only grown deeper since their weekend in the city. They spent their days enjoying simple moments together, cooking dinner at his apartment, taking long walks in the park, and talking late into the night about their hopes and dreams. Emily found herself laughing more, feeling lighter than she had in a long time. But as her relationship with Alex deepened, Emily couldn't help but feel a bit of anxiety creeping in. She was afraid of losing herself in this relationship, of giving up too much of who she was in the process. It wasn't that she didn't trust Alex, she did, but she was still learning how to balance her independence with the love she was beginning to feel for him. One evening, as they sat on the couch, Alex turned to her with a look in his eyes that made her heart skip a beat. "Emily," he said, his voice soft but serious, "I want you to know something. I care about you more than I've ever cared about anyone. You've changed my life in ways I didn't expect." Emily felt her breath catch in her throat. She hadn't realized how much she had come to care for him until that moment. "Alex, I care about you too," she said, her voice trembling slightly. I'm scared. I'm scared of losing myself in this. I've spent so much of my life alone, doing everything on my own, that I don't know how to share my life with someone else." Alex reached out, taking her hand in his touch warm and reassuring. "Emily," he said softly, "you don't have to lose yourself. I'm not asking you to change who you are. I just want to be a part of your life, to share those moments with you. But I want you to still be you, the person I fell in love with." His words settled in her heart, and for the first time, Emily realized that she didn't have to be afraid of losing herself. She didn't have to choose between love and independence. With Alex, she could have both. As they sat there, holding hands, Emily felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in a long time. She had been so afraid of losing control, of giving too much of herself to someone else, but now, she saw that true love wasn't about losing who you were. It was about growing together, supporting each other, and building something stronger than you could alone. The following weekend, Alex invited Emily to a charity event he was hosting. It was a formal affair, something completely different from their usual casual dinners and quiet nights at home. Emily was nervous at first, unsure of what to wear or how to fit into the world Alex inhabited. But Alex reassured her that it was just another evening, and he wanted her by his side. "You look stunning," Alex whispered as they arrived at the event, his eyes lighting up when he saw her in the dress she had chosen. Emily smiled, feeling a flutter in her chest. For the first time, she didn't feel out of place. She didn't feel like an outsider in this world that Alex had built. She felt confident, supported, and like she truly belonged. The evening was a blur of faces, conversations, and laughter, but through it all, Alex stayed close by her side. He introduced her to people, made her feel comfortable, and never once left her alone in a room full of strangers. Emily began to realize just how much Alex had been a part of her life, how he had been supporting her without asking for anything in return. She had always thought that love was about grand gestures and dramatic moments. But what Alex showed her was that love was in the quiet moments, the small acts of kindness, and the way you made someone feel when they needed it most. As the night wore on, Emily found herself standing on the balcony, overlooking the city. The lights below sparkled like a sea of stars, and for a moment, she felt completely at peace. Alex joined her, standing beside her as they both looked out over the city. "I'm really glad you're here," he said softly, his voice filled with sincerity. "I know it hasn't been easy for you, but I just want you to know that I'm not going anywhere." Emily looked at him, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over her. She had never known someone like Alex, someone who could make her feel so safe and loved. "I don't want you to go anywhere either," she said quietly, her heart full. Alex smiled and took her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "We'll take this one step at a time," he said, "together." As they stood there, holding hands, looking out at the city, Emily realized that she had finally found someone who truly understood her, someone who loved her for who she was and who wanted to build a future with her. And in that moment, for the first time in a long time, Emily felt like everything was going to be okay. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to face it, with Alex by her side. The weeks following the charity event were filled with a new sense of stability for Emily. It had been a month since that night on the balcony, and things between her and Alex had only grown stronger. She no longer felt the pressure of needing to have everything figured out. The relationship had evolved into something genuine, something real. She was still getting used to the idea of letting someone in, but with Alex, it felt like the easiest thing in the world. They had continued to spend time together, whether it was exploring new spots in the city or just having quiet nights at home. Each day brought a new sense of ease, a sense of belonging that Emily hadn't realized she had been missing. But as comfortable as things had become, Emily was still grappling with her past. She knew Alex cared for her, but there were parts of her life, parts of her heart, that she had never shared with him. She had always been afraid of showing her vulnerabilities, of letting anyone see the parts of her that felt broken. But the more time they spent together, the more Emily realized that in order to move forward, she would have to confront her past and let Alex in on the things she had been hiding. One afternoon, while sitting on the couch together, Alex turned to her, a look of concern on his face. "You've been quiet lately," he said gently. "Is everything okay?" Emily looked down, the weight of his words settling in her chest. She had been trying to push away the feelings of fear, but they were still there, lurking beneath the surface. She hadn't realized how much she had been holding back until Alex pointed it out. "I don't know," Emily said, her voice barely a whisper. "I think I'm just scared. Scared of letting you in completely. I've been through so much, and sometimes it feels like if I let you see all of it, you'll walk away." Alex's expression softened, and he reached out, taking her hand in his. "Emily, I'm not going anywhere," he said quietly. "I'm here for you, no matter what. I want to understand everything, all of it. You don't have to hide anything from me." His words were exactly what Emily needed to hear, but the thought of revealing her past still made her heart race. It wasn't that she didn't trust him. It was just that the memories she kept locked away were painful, and opening up about them meant confronting those wounds. But in that moment, Emily realized that maybe it was time. "Okay," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'll tell you." The next few hours were spent in silence, save for the occasional sound of Emily's voice as she shared her past with Alex. She told him about the struggles she had faced growing up, the loss of her father when she was younger, and how she had been forced to grow up quickly. She shared how the weight of responsibility had always been on her shoulders, and how she had learned to do everything on her own. She spoke of the pain she carried, the fear that had shaped her, and how it had prevented her from trusting anyone for a long time. As she spoke, Alex listened intently, never interrupting, never judging. He simply held her hand, offering her the comfort of his presence. Emily felt the walls she had spent so long building around herself slowly come down, piece by piece. She was scared, yes, but she was also relieved. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was carrying the weight of the world alone. When she finished, Alex leaned in, placing a gentle kiss on her forehead. "Thank you for trusting me," he said softly. "I know that was hard for you, but I'm so glad you shared it with me. You don't have to carry this burden anymore. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Emily closed her eyes, letting the warmth of his words wash over her. She had never realized how much she needed to hear that. She had spent so long convincing herself that she had to handle everything on her own, but now, she knew that it was okay to let someone else in. That evening, they sat together in comfortable silence, the weight of Emily's past now shared between them. It wasn't gone, but it didn't feel as heavy anymore. She realized that she didn't have to be afraid of her past. She didn't have to be afraid of letting Alex in. He had proven time and time again that he cared for her, that he was there for her, no matter what. And for the first time, Emily allowed herself to believe it. Over the next few weeks, Emily and Alex continued to grow closer, their bond becoming even stronger. They faced challenges together, but with each passing day, Emily found herself feeling more at ease. She had started to trust not only Alex, but also herself. She no longer felt the need to hide behind her walls. She knew that with Alex by her side, she could face whatever came next. One evening, as they walked along the river, Alex took her hand and smiled at her. "I'm so proud of you, Emily," he said. "You've come so far, and I'm lucky to be a part of your journey." Emily looked up at him, her heart full. "I'm proud of me too," she said, her voice steady. "And I'm so grateful for you. I don't know what I would have done without you." Alex leaned down and kissed her gently. "We're in this together," he whispered. And for the first time in a long time, Emily truly believed it. As the weeks went by, Emily found herself settling into a new rhythm with Alex. Their relationship had grown in ways she hadn't expected. It wasn't just about the romantic gestures or the shared experiences. It was about the quiet moments, the deep conversations, and the growing trust between them. Emily had always been someone who carried her burdens alone, but now, she felt like she didn't have to. With Alex, she had someone to lean on, someone who saw her for who she truly was and accepted her without hesitation. Yet, despite the growing closeness between them, Emily was still carrying something heavy, a part of her past that she hadn't shared with Alex. It wasn't that she didn't trust him, it was just that some things were harder to say. She had always been afraid of letting anyone see her weaknesses, and there were parts of her life that still felt raw, things she hadn't yet found the strength to talk about. It wasn't until one quiet evening, sitting on the couch in Alex's apartment, that Emily realized it was time. They had been talking about their future, discussing everything from travel plans to where they saw themselves in the next few years. But as they spoke, Emily could feel the weight of her unspoken words pressing down on her. Alex had been so open with her, so understanding of her past and her fears. He had shown her time and time again that he wasn't going anywhere. So why was she still holding back? "Alex," Emily began, her voice soft but steady. "There's something I need to tell you." Alex turned to face her, his expression serious but gentle. "What is it?" he asked, his tone filled with concern. Emily took a deep breath, her hands resting nervously in her lap. "I haven't told you everything about my past," she said, her voice quiet. "There are things I've been carrying for a long time, and I've been afraid to let anyone in on them." Alex reached over, taking her hand in his, offering the quiet support that had become a constant in their relationship. "You don't have to tell me everything, Emily," he said softly. "But if you're ready, I'm here to listen." Emily looked at him, her heart pounding. She had kept these parts of herself hidden for so long, but she knew she couldn't keep them to herself anymore. "When I was younger," she began, "I lost both of my parents. My mom passed away when I was a kid, and my daddy passed away a few years ago." She paused, the weight of the words hanging in the air. Alex didn't interrupt, just squeezed her hand gently. "I was left to take care of myself, and for a long time, I felt like I couldn't rely on anyone. I pushed people away because I was afraid of losing them too. It's hard for me to open up, because every time I let someone in, I feel like they'll leave." She took another deep breath, her eyes welling with tears. "And I guess I've been afraid that if I let you in too much, you'll leave too." Alex's heart ached as he listened to her. He had no idea how much she had been carrying, how much pain she had endured on her own. He didn't know what to say, but he knew that whatever she needed, he would be there. "Emily," he said quietly, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to leave you, no matter what you've been through." His words were simple, but they held so much meaning. Emily looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how to stop being afraid," she whispered. "I don't know how to let go of all this fear of losing people." Alex pulled her gently into his arms, holding her as she cried. "You don't have to let go of it all at once," he said softly. "You don't have to do it alone. I'm here, and you don't have to be afraid anymore." Emily buried her face in his chest, feeling the warmth of his embrace. It was the first time in a long time that she felt safe enough to let her guard down. For so long, she had been so afraid of being vulnerable, of allowing someone to see the parts of herself that she thought were too broken. But now, With Alex, she realized that maybe it wasn't about being perfect. Maybe it was about being real, about accepting the parts of herself that she had tried to hide. As the night went on, they sat together in silence, Emily's head resting on Alex's shoulder as he gently stroked her hair. She felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she wasn't alone. And for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she could let go of the fear that had held her back for so long. The next morning, as the sunlight streamed through the window, Emily woke up feeling different. The weight of the previous night's conversation still lingered, but it didn't feel as heavy anymore. She had shared her fears, her pain, and Alex had listened. He hadn't judged her, and he hadn't tried to fix everything. He had just been there for her, exactly as she needed him to be. Emily realized that she didn't have to carry everything by herself. She didn't have to be afraid of needing someone. As she sat on the edge of the bed, Alex woke up beside her, his hand reaching out to take hers. "Good morning," he said with a smile, his voice still husky with sleep. Emily smiled back, feeling a warmth in her heart that she hadn't felt in a long time. "Good morning," she said softly, her voice filled with a new sense of hope. For the first time, she felt like she could be herself with him, completely and utterly herself. And that, she realized, was enough. As the weeks passed, Emily found herself stepping into a new chapter of her life. Her relationship with Alex had grown even deeper, and with each passing day, she realized how much he had become a part of her world. They had faced challenges together, from the lingering uncertainties in her heart to the inevitable moments of doubt. But through it all, Alex had been unwavering in his support. Emily had come to trust him completely, and for the first time, she felt truly seen, not just for her strengths, but for her vulnerabilities too. She had been learning to open up more, to let down the walls she had spent years building around herself. And now, every moment with Alex felt like a step toward a future she hadn't dared to imagine. But while Emily had come a long way in her personal journey, there were still remnants of her past that she had to face. Her fears of being vulnerable still lingered, though she had become better at managing them. There were times when she wondered if she could keep up the pace of change, but Alex always reminded her that there was no rush. He wanted her to move at her own speed, and, for the first time in her life, Emily realized that she didn't need to do everything on her own. It was okay to take things one step at a time. One Saturday afternoon, Alex invited Emily to a picnic in the park. It was a beautiful, sunny day, and Emily couldn't think of a better way to spend the afternoon. As they arrived, Alex set up a blanket under the shade of a large oak tree, and Emily smiled, taking in the peaceful surroundings. She had always loved the outdoors, but lately, it had felt different, calmer, almost as if the world had slowed down just for her. "I thought we could just relax today," Alex said, spreading out the blanket. "No work, no stress, just us and some good food." Emily laughed, feeling a warmth in her chest. "That sounds perfect," she said. They spent the afternoon enjoying the simple pleasures, eating, talking, and laughing together. As the day wore on, Emily found herself feeling more and more at ease with the idea of a future with Alex. She could see herself growing old with him, sharing these moments of peace and happiness. But even with all the good things in her life, there was still a part of her that wasn't entirely sure she was ready to take the next step. The next step wasn't just about her relationship with Alex. It was about opening up to a whole new world of possibilities. She had always kept her dreams at arm's length, afraid to believe they could come true. But now, with Alex by her side, she was beginning to think differently. Maybe it was time to pursue those dreams, the ones she had buried under the weight of responsibility for so long. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, Alex turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking," he said slowly, "about the future. About us. And I want you to know that whatever you want, whatever dreams you have, I'm here to support you." Emily's heart skipped a beat. His words felt like a balm to the lingering insecurities she had been carrying. "You're really serious about that, aren't you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex smiled, a warm, genuine smile that made her feel like the most important person in the world. "I'm serious. I want to build a future with you, Emily. And I want that future to be one where you can be yourself, where we can both chase our dreams together." The weight of his words sank in, and Emily realized that, For the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of the future. She wasn't afraid of what came next. She knew that whatever happened, Alex would be by her side. "Thank you," she said, her voice full of emotion. "Thank you for believing in me." Alex leaned in, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. "I've always believed in you, Emily," he said quietly. "You just had to believe in yourself." Emily smiled, feeling a sense of peace that she hadn't felt before. For the first time in years, she realized that she didn't have to be afraid of taking risks, of going after what she wanted. And with Alex's support, she knew that the path ahead would be full of new adventures, new opportunities, and, most importantly, new hope. As they packed up and made their way back to the car, Emily felt lighter than she had in months. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she felt ready to face it. And with Alex by her side, she knew she could take whatever came her way. The journey they had started together was only just beginning, and as they drove off into the sunset, Emily realized that she was exactly where she was meant to be. The weeks that followed were a turning point for Emily. She felt a sense of calm that had eluded her for years, a peace she hadn't known was possible. With Alex's unwavering support and encouragement, she was finally beginning to believe in the future they were building together. Each day brought new possibilities, and Emily realized she was no longer afraid of what came next. Her walls, once so high and impenetrable, were starting to crumble, piece by piece. She could finally see that she didn't have to carry the weight of the world alone. With Alex by her side, the future didn't seem so overwhelming. As their relationship deepened, Emily began to open up more, not just to Alex, but to herself. She realized that she had spent so much of her life hiding behind fear and insecurity, trying to protect herself from the inevitable pain that seemed to follow her wherever she went. But now, with Alex, she felt safe enough to take the risks that she had avoided for so long. One evening, after a quiet dinner at her apartment, Alex suggested they take a short trip together. It was an idea that Emily hadn't considered before, going away for a few days, just the two of them. She had always been cautious, afraid of stepping too far out of her comfort zone. But now, with Alex, she realized that stepping out of her comfort zone didn't have to be so scary. It could be an opportunity to grow, to experience new things, and to build even more memories together. "What do you think?" Alex asked, a gentle smile on his face as they sat on the couch. "A weekend away sounds like a good idea, right?" Emily hesitated for a moment, her mind racing. The thought of leaving behind the familiar, the routines she had built for herself, made her nervous. But then she thought about everything she had already shared with Alex, everything she had gained by letting him into her life. "Okay," she said softly, her heart pounding in her chest. "Let's do it. A weekend away sounds perfect." Alex's eyes lit up, and he reached over to take her hand. "I'm glad you're on board," he said, his voice full of warmth. "I think it's just what we need." The next few days flew by as they made plans for their trip. Emily couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nervousness. She wasn't sure what to expect, but part of her was eager to experience something new, to let go of the fear that had held her back for so long. The morning of their departure, Alex picked her up, and they headed out of the city. The drive was peaceful, with the open road stretching out before them. Emily found herself relaxing, the stress of her everyday life melting away as they talked and laughed along the way. They arrived at a small cabin in the woods, tucked away from the world, surrounded by nature. The quiet was almost overwhelming at first, but as they settled in, Emily felt a sense of tranquility she hadn't known she was missing. The cabin was cozy, with a warm fire crackling in the hearth and soft blankets strewn across the furniture. They spent the day hiking through the woods, breathing in the fresh air and enjoying the beauty of the landscape. It was a simple day, but Emily couldn't remember the last time she had felt so at peace. As the sun began to set, they sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, watching the sky change colors. Alex turned to her, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I've been thinking," he began, "about how much you've grown. It's incredible to see how much more open you've become, how much more you're allowing yourself to trust and to love." Emily looked at him, her heart full. "I never thought I'd be able to let go of all the fear I had. But with you, it's different. I feel like I can finally be myself." Alex smiled, his eyes soft with affection. "You've always been yourself, Emily. You just needed someone who would see you for who you really are." His words took her by surprise, and she felt a rush of emotion. She had spent so much of her life feeling like she wasn't enough, like she had to hide parts of herself to fit in. But with Alex, she felt like she didn't have to pretend. She could simply be. "I don't know what the future holds," Emily said quietly, "but I do know that I want to see where this goes. With you. I want to take that leap." Alex reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "We'll take it one step at a time," he said. "No rush, no pressure. Just us, living in the moment." As they sat there, the cool breeze rustling the leaves around them, Emily realized that she wasn't afraid anymore. She had spent so long holding herself back, afraid of making the wrong move. But with Alex, she felt ready to move forward. They didn't need to have all the answers right away. What mattered was that they were together, that they were willing to take this journey side by side. The rest of the weekend passed in a peaceful haze. They spent their days exploring, their evenings sitting by the fire, talking about everything and nothing. It felt like the world had slowed down, and for once, Emily could breathe. When they returned to the city, she felt a renewed sense of clarity. The weekend had reminded her of the importance of slowing down, of taking time for the things that mattered most. As they drove back home, Alex reached over and took her hand in his touch reassuring and steady. "I'm glad we did this," he said, his voice filled with quiet contentment. "Me too," Emily replied, smiling at him. "I'm ready for whatever comes next." And for the first time in her life, she truly believed it. As Emily and Alex settled back into their routine after their peaceful weekend getaway, something inside Emily had shifted. The weekend had given her the space to breathe, to see the world outside of her usual worries, and for the first time, she truly realized how much her relationship with Alex had transformed her. There was no longer any hesitation when she thought about their future. She could finally picture a life where she wasn't weighed down by past fears, where love wasn't just something she gave, but something she could receive fully and without reservation. But the deeper connection they shared also brought with it a sense of responsibility, a responsibility to herself and to the person she was becoming with Alex by her side. Alex had made it clear that he was in this for the long haul, that their love was something worth fighting for. But as much as Emily wanted to embrace that idea, there was a part of her that remained cautious. She wasn't naive. She knew that life, no matter how beautiful, was never without challenges. As much as she had let down her guard, there was still the fear that someday, her old wounds might resurface, threatening the peace she had worked so hard to find. It wasn't that she doubted Alex. It was more about the fear of her own past creeping into their present. One afternoon, as they sat on the couch together, Alex seemed unusually quiet. Emily noticed the shift in his demeanor and could tell that something was on his mind. "Is everything okay?" she asked gently, her voice soft with concern. Alex looked up from his phone, his eyes meeting hers with an expression that made her heart race. "I've been thinking," he began slowly, "about us. About how everything has been moving so fast." Emily sat up, her heart skipping a beat. "What do you mean?" she asked, her mind racing with possibilities. Alex took a deep breath before continuing. "I love you, Emily, and I don't want you to think that I'm rushing things. But I know we've both been through a lot, and I want to make sure that we're not just jumping into something because it feels right in the moment. I want to build something solid, something that lasts, and I don't want either of us to be blindsided by something we haven't talked about." Emily's heart swelled as she listened to him. His words were thoughtful, and for the first time, she realized just how much he valued their connection. He wasn't looking for a quick fix or a fleeting romance. He was in this with her, for the long haul. She took a moment to process his words, then reached out to take his hand. "I know what you mean," she said softly. "I've been thinking a lot too. About how much I've changed since we met, how much I've opened up to you. I never thought I'd be able to let someone in the way I've let you in. And I don't want to lose that." Alex squeezed her hand, his eyes filled with understanding. "I don't want you to lose it either," he said quietly. "But I also don't want you to feel like you have to hold back. I'm not going anywhere, Emily. I know that we both have our fears and our pasts, but I believe in what we have. And I want to keep building it, slowly, together." Emily felt the weight of his words, and for the first time, she allowed herself to really feel the depth of the love they had built. She had been so afraid for so long, afraid of what would happen if she let someone in too deeply. But with Alex, she realized that love wasn't about holding back. It was about trusting, giving, and allowing herself to be vulnerable. She didn't have to be afraid anymore. "I'm ready," Alex, she said, her voice steady and filled with conviction. I'm ready to keep building with you, one step at a time. No more fear. Just us. Alex smiled, his face softening as he leaned in to kiss her. The kiss was slow and tender, a promise that everything they had worked for was real, that the foundation they had built together was strong enough to weather whatever came their way. As they pulled away, Alex rested his forehead against hers, his hands gently cupping her face. Thank you for trusting me, Emily, he whispered. I promise you, I'm here for the long haul. Emily closed her eyes, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. For the first time in her life, she felt like she could fully trust someone, that she could build a future without constantly looking over her shoulder. She didn't have to carry the weight of the world alone anymore. With Alex, she realized that she could be herself, without fear or hesitation. She could finally embrace the love she had longed for, without reservation. As the days passed, Emily and Alex continued to grow together. Their relationship wasn't perfect. No relationship ever was. But they had learned to communicate, to trust each other fully, and to support one another through whatever challenges life threw their way. Emily had never known that love could feel like this, steady, grounded, and yet full of excitement for the future. She had always believed that love meant being afraid of losing someone. But with Alex, she realized that love was about growing together, creating something that was stronger than any fear. As they planned for the future, Emily knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, side by side. The future was no longer a source of fear for her. It was something to look forward to, a journey they would walk together, step by step. The days following that conversation were filled with a renewed sense of purpose for Emily and Alex. They had cleared the air about their fears and uncertainties, and the weight that had once hung over their relationship seemed to lift. Emily, more than ever, felt secure in what they had, but there was still a part of her that hadn't fully let go of her past. She had opened up to Alex, shared parts of herself she had buried for years, and though she felt lighter, the shadow of her previous struggles lingered. It wasn't that she didn't trust Alex. She had come to realize that trusting him was the easiest thing she'd ever done. It was more about trusting herself. It was about embracing the fact that she deserved love, that she could accept it without fear of being left behind. One evening, as they walked through the city after dinner, Emily turned to Alex, her steps slow as she tried to find the right words. You know, I've been thinking, she started, her voice quieter than usual. Alex looked over at her, sensing the shift in her tone. About what? He asked, his voice gentle. Emily hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to voice her thoughts. I've spent so much of my life convincing myself that I wasn't enough, she said, looking up at the night sky. That I had to do everything on my own. And now, with you, I realize that I've been wrong. I've been so afraid of letting people in, of trusting them fully. But you make me want to be better. You make me believe that I can do this. Alex stopped walking, pulling her gently to a halt as well. He faced her, his expression soft with understanding. Emily, he said, his voice tender, you've always been enough. You don't have to be anyone else. You don't have to do anything more. Just by being you, you've made my life better, and that's all I could ever ask for. His words struck a deep chord within her. She had spent so many years feeling like she wasn't worthy of love, too afraid to take the risks that came with trusting someone completely. But now, with Alex, she realized that love wasn't about perfection. It was about connection, about finding someone who accepted you, flaws and all, and growing together. They stood there for a moment, surrounded by the buzz of the city, but in that moment, it felt like the world had fallen away. It was just the two of them, standing in the quiet of their shared understanding. Emily finally spoke again, her voice steady. I think I'm ready, she said. Ready to let go of the past, ready to trust in what we have. I don't want to be afraid anymore. I want to build a future with you, Alex. I want to share everything, even the hard parts. Alex smiled softly, his heart full as he reached for her hand. I'm here, Emily. And I'm ready too. We don't need to have it all figured out. All I need is you. We'll take it one step at a time, together. With that, they continued their walk through the city, their hands intertwined, each step feeling like a promise, a commitment to each other. The next few weeks were filled with shared moments of joy, whether it was cooking dinner together or spending lazy Sunday afternoons curled up on the couch. Emily had never known that love could be so easy, so natural. But it was with Alex. She had let herself trust him fully, and in doing so, she had found a peace she hadn't known she was missing. As the days went by, Emily also realized something else, that she wasn't just building a future with Alex. She was building a future for herself. Her dreams, her goals, the things she had once pushed aside in favor of surviving were slowly coming back into focus. She had always put everyone else's needs before her own, but now, with Alex's encouragement, she was finally allowing herself to dream again. One evening, as they sat on the porch of Alex's apartment, Emily looked at him with a thoughtful expression. "You know, I've been thinking about something," she said. "I think I want to go back to school. I've always wanted to finish my degree, but I never thought it was possible with everything going on." Alex's eyes lit up, a broad smile spreading across his face. "Emily, that's amazing. You should do it. Whatever you want. I'm behind you 100%. We can make it work." His enthusiasm was exactly what she needed to hear. For the first time in years, Emily felt like she wasn't held back by her past. She was ready to step forward into the future with confidence, knowing that Alex would be there every step of the way. The weeks turned into months, and Emily began taking classes again, balancing school with her job and time with Alex. It wasn't easy, but she felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer just existing. She was building a life that felt fulfilling, a life that was hers to shape. Alex, too, continued to support her in every way he could, always encouraging her and celebrating her successes. Together, they built a foundation of mutual respect, love, and shared goals. Their relationship was no longer just about what they had in the present. It was about the future they were creating together. As the days grew longer and warmer, Emily realized that she had found something she never thought was possible, a love that wasn't just about escaping her past, but about embracing the future with all its uncertainties and possibilities. And as she looked ahead, with Alex by her side, she knew that whatever challenges they faced, they would face them together. No more fear, no more holding back, just love, trust, and the promise of a bright future. Months passed, and Emily found herself in a place she had never thought possible: contentment. She was no longer the woman who carried her burdens alone, afraid to trust and afraid to love. With Alex by her side, she felt like she could conquer anything, and for the first time, she truly believed in herself. Her life had transformed in ways she never imagined. She was pursuing her degree, balancing work, school, and a loving relationship, and each day felt like a step toward the future she had once thought was out of her reach. The more she grew, the more she realized that the journey was just as important as the destination. She had come so far, and every small victory was a reminder of her strength. Still, as much as her life had changed for the better, there was one lingering thought that kept her up at night. It wasn't about her fears of the past anymore. It wasn't about whether or not Alex would stay. No, it was something deeper, a challenge of her own making. How could she allow herself to dream bigger, to step beyond the boundaries she had once set for herself? How could she truly embrace the future without the lingering self-doubt that had held her back for so long? She didn't have all the answers yet, but with Alex's support, she knew she didn't have to rush to find them. One evening, as they sat together on the couch after a long day, Emily turned to Alex, her thoughts weighing heavily on her mind. "Alex," she began slowly, her voice soft but steady. "I've been thinking a lot lately about everything, about what we've built together and how much I've changed. But there's one thing that I've realized. I want to do more. I want to take bigger steps, not just for us, but for me." Alex turned to her, his face full of interest. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice gentle. Emily took a deep breath, gathering the courage to say what had been on her mind for weeks. "I've spent so much time focusing on survival, on getting through each day. But now, I want to focus on thriving. I want to take risks. I want to chase my dreams, not just for the sake of stability, but because I believe I can. I want to stop holding back." Alex listened carefully, his expression softening as he understood what she was saying. He reached for her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "Emily, I've always believed in you," he said, his voice sincere. "You have so much potential, and I can see it. If anyone deserves to chase their dreams, it's you. And I'm here to support you, no matter what." Emily smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. His words meant more than he could know. "I'm scared, though," she admitted. "I'm afraid of failure, of not living up to what I know I'm capable of. But I know I can't keep waiting for the right time. I have to start now." Alex smiled back at her, his eyes full of pride. "You've already started, Emily. Every step you've taken, whether big or small, has led you here. And if you want to take the next step, I'll be right here with you." Emily felt her heart swell with emotion. She had been afraid to take the leap, afraid of what might happen if she let herself dream too big. But in that moment, she realized that the leap wasn't just about the big goals. It was about allowing herself to believe that she was worthy of those goals. It was about trust, trusting herself, trusting Alex, and trusting the future. The following weeks were a whirlwind of new experiences and challenges. Emily took a deep dive into her studies, pushing herself further than she ever had before. She started researching career paths that had once felt too far out of reach and began exploring ways to integrate her passions with her professional life. It wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, moments when the old fears tried to creep in, but with Alex's unwavering belief in her, Emily kept pushing forward. And each day, she felt more like the person she had always hoped she could be. One afternoon, as Emily sat at her desk, working through a project for one of her classes, Alex came in, holding a small envelope. "I've got something for you," he said with a smile, his eyes twinkling with excitement. Emily raised an eyebrow, surprised. "What's this?" she asked, taking the envelope from him. "Open it," Alex urged. Emily tore open the envelope, revealing a plane ticket. Her eyes widened as she looked at him. "What's this?" she repeated, still in shock. "A weekend getaway?" Alex grinned. "Not just any weekend getaway," he said. "This is for the dream destination you've talked about for months. The one you said you'd go to one day. Well, I'm making one day today. Let's take that step together. Let's make the dreams we talk about a reality." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't believe it. All the fears, all the doubts, had kept her from seeing just how much Alex supported her dreams. It wasn't just about the practical steps. They had always been a team, and now he was showing her that he was ready to walk with her into whatever future they decided to create. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she looked at Alex, overwhelmed by his thoughtfulness and his belief in her. "I can't believe you did this," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you. Thank you for always encouraging me to dream bigger." Alex pulled her into a gentle embrace, kissing the top of her head. "You don't need to thank me," he said softly. "I believe in you. I always have." Emily smiled, feeling more certain than ever that this was just the beginning of the life she was ready to build. The journey wasn't about reaching perfection. It was about taking the next step, no matter how big or small, together. And as they began planning for their next adventure, Emily knew that whatever came next, she would face it with the strength, love, and belief in herself that she had never had before. As Emily and Alex packed their bags for the weekend getaway, the excitement in the air was palpable. This trip wasn't just about escaping their daily routines. It was about embracing the dreams they had both been nurturing. Emily had never imagined that taking a leap of faith could feel this exhilarating. The idea of traveling somewhere she had always dreamed of felt surreal, but now it was happening, and she was ready to embrace every moment of it. The flight was smooth, and the scenery on the way there was breathtaking. As they arrived at their destination, a quiet coastal town known for its charming beaches and vibrant culture, Emily felt a sense of peace wash over her. The moment they stepped out of the airport, the fresh air filled with the scent of salt water and pine trees was a refreshing change from the city. Alex was beside her, his presence calming, and for the first time in a long while, Emily felt completely at ease. They checked into their hotel, a cozy, oceanfront place with large windows offering a view of the sea. As they settled in, Emily couldn't help but reflect on how much her life had changed. Just months ago, she had been unsure of her future, afraid of taking risks and embracing her dreams. Now, she was living one of those dreams with the person she loved. The next few days were filled with adventures, long walks on the beach, exploring the local shops, and indulging in delicious seafood. Every moment was filled with laughter, and Emily couldn't remember the last time she had felt so carefree. One afternoon, as they walked along the shore, Emily paused, feeling the cool water lap at her feet. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the ocean. She turned to Alex, her heart full. "This has been perfect," she said, her voice quiet but filled with gratitude. "Thank you for this. I never would have thought to take this trip on my own, but I'm so glad we did." Alex smiled, his eyes reflecting the colors of the setting sun. "I'm glad too. But I'm not just doing this for you. I'm doing this because we're building something together. And I want you to know, this isn't just a trip. It's a symbol of everything we're creating. We're not just talking about our dreams anymore, Emily. We're living them." His words sank deep into Emily's heart, and for a moment, she felt like everything she had feared in the past had been left behind. She had let go of the fears that had once held her back, and now she was living in the reality of what she had always wanted: love, support, and the courage to pursue her passions. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they sat down on the sand, side by side, watching the colors of the sky change. Emily leaned her head against Alex's shoulder, feeling the warmth of his touch and the comfort of knowing that, together, they could face whatever came next. Later that evening, they dined at a seaside restaurant, enjoying a delicious meal as they watched the stars appear above. It felt like the world had slowed down just for them, and in those quiet moments, Emily realized that she had never been more certain of anything in her life. She was exactly where she was meant to be. As the trip came to an end, Emily felt a deep sense of peace. She had come to terms with her past, letting go of the self-doubt and fears that had once shaped her. She had learned that love wasn't just about finding someone to share your life with. It was about growing together, supporting each other's dreams, and building a future without holding back. The journey they had started wasn't just about the destination. It was about the steps they had taken to get there. And as they boarded the plane to return home, Emily realized that while the trip was over, the life they were building together had only just begun. She wasn't afraid anymore. The future was waiting for her, and with Alex by her side, she was ready to embrace it, one step at a time. The months that followed their trip marked the beginning of a new chapter for Emily and Alex. It was a chapter defined by growth, shared dreams, and an unwavering commitment to one another. Emily had come so far from the person she had been when she first met Alex, the woman full of self-doubt, guarded by the weight of her past. She had blossomed into someone who was finally able to embrace her own potential and trust in the love that surrounded her. Every day, she found herself stepping more confidently into the future she had once feared, and it was all thanks to Alex. Their relationship was not just about love. It was about partnership, mutual respect, and support. Alex had never pushed her to be anything other than herself, and in doing so, he had given her the space to grow. But just as important, he had encouraged her to pursue the dreams that had once felt out of reach, and now Emily was doing just that. She was back in school, excelling in her studies, and her future seemed filled with endless possibilities. They had both learned that life was about taking chances, embracing the unknown, and trusting each other along the way. One evening, as they sat together on the porch of Alex's apartment, Emily turned to him, a thoughtful look in her eyes. "Alex," she began, her voice soft but steady, "I've been thinking a lot about everything. The past, the present, and the future. I never thought I'd be here, in this moment, feeling this way. But here we are, and I want you to know that you've changed my life." Alex smiled warmly, reaching for her hand. "You've changed mine too, Emily. I don't know where I'd be without you. I feel like together, we're building something real, something strong." Emily's heart swelled at his words. They had been through so much together, but the challenges had only strengthened their bond. There was no more fear of the unknown, no more hesitation. She knew that whatever life threw their way, they would face it together. "I know we don't have all the answers," Emily continued, "but I'm finally at a place where I'm not afraid of the future anymore. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for us." Alex leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. "We'll take it one step at a time," he said. "But as long as we're in this together, I know we'll be fine." In the months that followed, they continued to grow both individually and as a couple. Emily graduated with her degree, something she had once thought impossible, and Alex was by her side every step of the way, cheering her on. They made plans for their future, discussing everything from where they would live to the adventures they would take. They had learned that life was not just about finding stability. It was about embracing change, trusting in each other, and allowing room for growth. One weekend, As they took a stroll through the park, Alex turned to Emily with a playful grin. "So," he said, "what's next on the list of things we've always dreamed about doing?" Emily smiled, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. "I don't know yet," she said, "but I do know this. Whatever it is, I'm ready for it." And she was. Emily was ready for whatever the future held, knowing that as long as they faced it together, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. They had built something beautiful, something lasting, and the love they shared was more than just an escape from the past. It was the foundation of their future. As they continued their journey, Emily realized that the greatest gift of all was not just finding love, but finding the courage to live it fully, without fear or reservation. With Alex by her side, she knew that the best was yet to come. In this captivating story of love, transformation, and self-discovery, we follow the journey of a woman who overcame her past fears and embraced a future she never thought was possible. With the support of someone who believed in her, she pursued her dreams, learned to trust and love, and found the courage to step into a new life. As she navigates the challenges of her past, her relationship with a man who has his own millionaire story unfolds in unexpected ways, proving that true love and support can change everything. From overcoming insecurities to dreaming big, this story will inspire anyone looking for hope and motivation. As the couple journeys together through personal growth and achievements, they experience the kind of transformation that you often hear about in millionaire stories. Their path is filled with trials, but the love they share shows how two people can create something beautiful out of the toughest circumstances. As they continue to build a future together, it becomes clear that the lessons learned along the way are a true reflection of the strength that comes from overcoming life's challenges. This is not just a story about love, but a journey that mirrors what you often see in millionaire stories. Overcoming obstacles, facing fears, and stepping into a future full of limitless possibilities. Through their bond and growth, Emily and Alex remind us all that love, trust, and support can lead to achieving the unimaginable, as demonstrated by countless millionaire stories that inspire others to believe in themselves and their own potential.